So today I'm really excited, and with all my friends at favequilts.com, and then again my friend Sandra, who has so graciously let me use her AccuQuilt studio. And I'm so excited. It's something that I don't have, and I've been having a lot of fun using the different die cuts, and that's what this is, a nice Rag Quilt Die Cut. And you sandwich your fabric in between the die and this little piece of plastic, and it cuts magically. So what I've been doing lately is just making a bunch of rag quilts, and sometimes you can do these manually, but snipping these little edges can sometimes be a bit of a labor. So this die does it all for you, and I just thought I would show you how you go about using it. So what I'm going to do to make things easier, because for rag quilts you need a top or bottom, so one layer of fabric, and you want to make sure and notice what direction the die is going. See how this isn't exactly square? So you want to make sure, if you have a printed fabric, that you skew it so that you have a nice square print. So just lay that down, and then a layer of muslin. And this is just nice unbleached cotton muslin. Very nice. And you can cut so many different layers. You can cut layers of felt, you can cut cotton, you can cut all sorts of things with this. And then one last layer for the top, making sure that, again, you're skewing your fabric to keep the print straight. So just laying everything down, and then you go ahead, take your little sandwich, and you can see sometimes these do take a little bit of a beating from the blade, but you just go ahead and sandwich that down. And now you'll see over here in the machine, there's this metal tray, which is removable, but I like to keep it kind of in there, and you just lay your die right flush against the edge and kind of feed it in at a tilt, and you'll see the anchor start to move. So that's how you know that this has made its way into the rollers. So all you're going to do, very slowly, start rolling and see if you catch. Push a little bit and roll, and as it starts to feed in, you can hear that blade slicing through all those layers of fabric. Now one thing I like to do, they say you can press it through once, but I just like to go over a couple times just to make sure that I have gotten a nice, good, clean cut. But then once you're done, you just feed through all the way, remove the top, and you can see you've got all this perfectly cut things. Now it's a good idea just to keep scissors around just in case, because you don't want to distort your little piece of fabric any. Just go ahead and peel away and do a little clip snipping if you need to. But there you go. And you can see all layers cut out perfectly, cut out beautifully, and now you can see why I have all this lint on me. You can see a lot of lint. So it's a good idea to have a vacuum cleaner or something just to clean up these dies. But now what I'm going to do is show you how I'm going to take this little piece of sandwiched fabric and turn it into a rag quilt. So I'm going to go over to the sewing machine, and I'll be right back. Alright, so what I've gone ahead and done is just embroidered a simple pattern on top, just to decorate. But if you didn't want to embroider, you could do a little X to stabilize all the layers of fabric. And sometimes that just helps to make putting together the final quilt a little bit easier. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and take my little pieces and find the edge and match them up. And that's why a rag quilt is really just so forgiving, because the edges don't need to be perfect. You don't really need pins, but you just line up your pieces, hold them together nicely, and you're just going to sew right against the edge of all those pre-cut lines. So just drop down your presser foot and set your machine for a straight stitch with a standard length, and go ahead and sew. But don't forget to backstitch. Go ahead and cut your threads and start to create your chain. So you'll just take this and attach your pieces one by one and sew along. So see how as I'm going along now, just to make sure you're matching up the corners and the edges now, because you don't want to have a wonky square. So make sure you're just lining everything up really nice. Now it is a very forgiving quilt, but you can't take too many liberties, otherwise you won't have good results. So go ahead, and then our last one. Be careful not to tack down any of those little ends, but that's okay. And now here comes the fun part. You attach your chains together. So what you do is just treat this like one big square. Just take it, match them up. Make sure you line up the edges and the corners. It's especially important with the corners now that you have a long chain to connect. Just keep everything all nice. It looks good. Do a little adjusting as you need. And go ahead and sew it up. Back stitching. So important because you don't have the regular chains that you might have when you're quilting. So you really want to make sure everything's secure now. But stopping ever so often, making sure everything's all nice and lined up. And as you get to the humps, make sure you help yourself out. Try not to tack any of those little pieces down. It's all your fringe. Go ahead and make sure and check as you come into the home stretch. Back stitch, secure everything up, cut your threads, and you can see just how fast this quilt is going to come together. And it's so much fun. Now one of the last things you're going to want to do before you give this away is make sure you run it through the washing machine, and you'll really get all that nice texture that you get from all the edges. But anyways, this is using the AccuQuilt Studio and making a rag quilt. And I'm so glad all my friends at favequilts.com asked me to make it. I'm so glad my friend Sandra let me use her machine. So anyways, I hope this gives you an idea, and I hope you run out and use your AccuQuilt. Thanks.